the chances that it is going to rain soon are high. It's already drizzling on us, but that's a pretty thing. Gotta love the Florida rain. If you don't, you should start if you live here, because it is very pretty and this type of rain is very specific. What's the point that I'm trying to make today in this video? I want to talk about things that I realized about myself that were clearly signs of autism in my youth, that were just went over everyone's head, because who knew? We don't really know. We didn't really have thoughts back then on what autism looked like in little girls, or even little boys who are even atypical, and certainly someone like me who is non-binary as a child. How do you know what autism looks in a non-binary child in 2003? You're asking for trouble. But so let's list a few things. When I was really little, when I was first learning pronouns, I would mix them up. So let's say I wanted a glass of milk. My mom would ask me something like, do you want me to get you a glass of milk, or do you want me to get it? And I would say, you get it. And then she would go to get it, and I would get so angry. And I would say, no, you get it, you get it, you get it. And I meant I wanted to get it. I wanted to get it. And we can have a separate video on honking God, I think. Something like that. Anyway, maybe we'll have a separate video on why that pronoun thing is a very autistic thing to do. But basically it has to do with how you see yourself in relation to the world. Doesn't matter. It's super common. What else? When I was a kid, my favorite meals are meals that are in like one bowl. So I definitely had a few dishes growing up, like 3 or 4 that I just like loved. Like, you ask my mom, like, I love shepherd's pie. I love this thing she calls like chicken and rice. I love these meals that just have like 4 or 5 components, and then I'm like an autistic smasher. I don't like my foods to be separate. I like my foods to be all together. So again, I love like spaghetti. Like, there were just a few meals that I was just really into. So bing. Another one was, as I got older, how routine oriented I was. As a child, your parents kind of guide you through that, and I had very good parents, so I had great planning in my childhood life. But once I got to high school, it became even more important, and I loved the organization of it all. I thrived on it. God, you should see my planners from back then. And I was just on this schedule, the same thing happened every day, and the same thing happened every week, and the same thing happened every month. And the same thing happened every year. The same thing happened every year for 4 years, more or less. That was awesome. The stability of that, the knowing that it had to happen, I loved that. I was so confused as to why so many people felt so trapped. I get it now. What are some other things? There are so many. Oh, okay, so I liked stuffed animals, right? But not a ton, but I do know that I had like a black lab or something like that, and I named it like Joey. And then I think I ended up with 10, 15, you'd have to ask my parents, all black lab stuffed animals named either Joe, Joey, or Joseph, and I knew the difference. So that's strange. I'm just gonna let y'all know that's autism-y. I loved everything to be organized. Not exactly organized, it's more like, especially once I hit middle school, I needed to know where all of my things were. It was very important to me. You hear all the bugs? You can hear all the life. Which is probably a little bit annoying and also probably kind of cool in the video. So, wins and losses. When I was in middle school, I started, just needing to know how many items I had and where they were. I didn't super care if it was like organized as much as I knew what I had and exactly where it was. For instance, and I didn't know that this was super weird. I knew I was a little more organized than most. But I would call this car god. We have a lot of car gods going on. I would call this more organized than most 13-year-olds. I would make like a checklist, a typed checklist when we went on like vacations of every single thing that I needed to bring with me, like even to the type of shirt. And then I would check them off on the way there, and then I would check them off on the way back. Now I wasn't perfect at it, but like still, what am I doing bringing a checklist around? My brother used to just throw things in like a backpack and call it good. Car god. And that's wild to me. But looking back, it was just autism. I've always listened to like the same song just on repeat over and over and over again. I'll do it for months and months and months and still not know the lyrics at the end because I'm literally just crickets. Because I don't know if the right word is dissociating. It's definitely zoning out. I'm not sure. I would have to really unpack that. It might be both. Sometimes it might be, but either way, that whole autistic listen to the same song thing 20,000 times. If I had known that was a common trait, that might have been a bit of a zinger. What else was weird that I noticed afterwards? Oh, my special interest, man. I mean, the only one I can really remember as like, besides kind of chemistry as like a whole object, which became a special interest in high school, I was fixated on The Office. I don't know as much anymore because I kind of fell out of that and my special interests have changed. But I knew every episode. I knew every season. I knew which episodes were in what order. I could have told you, if you told me a line from the show, I probably could have told you the name of the episode, the number of the episode, and the season it was in. When my dad gave me quizzes on like which seasons were like the most popular, both based on like ratings and like Rotten Tomatoes scores, I could easily pick out which seasons it was. It was not difficult at all. I know that show so well. Again, less well now, but I've probably, and I really don't mean this as an exaggeration, I've definitely watched the entire 9 seasons 50 times, at least. If you exclude the first season, because it's kind of like just hard to watch. But seasons 2 through 9, I've seen at least 50 times. I would say it's probably closer to like 75. I don't think I've broken 100, and I probably won't because I slowed down so much. It doesn't bring me comfort anymore, which is really sad. But so that was a huge special interest that just kind of flew over my head, like I just really liked The Office. That was just something about me. What else? Oh, well, I mean, I stim all the time. I'm a big nail biter. I love to foot tap. I'm a pen chewer. I'm a big chewer. Check in with my mom. I'll chew basically anything. I think it was her, like, the bane of her existence as a child, or when I was a child, because, like, I would just throw anything in my mouth. I'm sure she was literally afraid hourly that I was going to choke. But I did not choke. But yeah, I'm a huge chewer. I'll gnaw on anything. I just constantly need to move. Like, my legs are going right now. But yeah, it's just like, or in class, in high school and in middle school, but definitely in high school, I used to just scribble. Like, scribble. And it was just like, that's what I did. And then, like, my teachers knew that if I was like sitting there scribbling, one of two things was going on. Either I was really bored with the content because I already knew it, or I was like hyper focusing and like using that as like a distraction and like taking notes. Once I got to college, it kind of shifted to drawing circles because I was bored all the time, and circles is a little bit more complex than just scribbling. Although, scribbling is an art form, and I will show you at some point how scribbles can get better and better, because I got better and better at them, and I could continue to get better at them, honestly. Scribbling is fun. Crickets. All of you insects. They kind of quieted it down for me, that's funny. And people say God's not real. What? Anyways, okay, so another thing that was super obvious, looking back anyway, is that, and no one else could have known this, but I always like wikied how, like how to make friends, like Google like what to do when going to the movies with friends, how to hang out in the car, what to say to new people. Like I always needed rules and some guidelines. I didn't realize everyone else was just doing it. I mean, I guess I did, but like I didn't think I was super abnormal for needing all this extra help. It is so loud. Oh, all right. So when I got to freshman year of college at this like super hippie school, it was like very common for people to walk barefoot. Not just walk barefoot, like live barefoot. You didn't have to wear shoes to class, you didn't have to wear shoes in any of the administrative buildings. You could go barefoot anywhere. It was awesome. I did it for a while. It rocked. That being said, when I showed up at the school, I don't think I took my socks off. Like I didn't show people my feet. Like, I didn't take my socks off in my dorm where I lived with other people. Like, we lived in one communal space. I didn't have, like, a room to myself. I don't think I showed people my actual feet. Like, I put socks on in the bathroom for, like, at least 2 months. I didn't let people hug me probably until sophomore year. So, that's autism-y as fuck. Another easy one is I hated eye contact, but I just thought it was really intense for everyone. I don't know why I thought that, because everyone else just does it and seems fine with it. But when I look into someone's eyes, it literally feels like I'm looking directly into their soul and like they're looking directly into mine, and I want to like run or die or fall in love or talk about like the cosmos. Those are like the 4 options. Like we need to talk about something deep, we need to fall in love, I need to run away, or I don't remember what the other one was. Something else. But it's terrifying to look in people's eyes. How do y'all do it? I don't know. I can only, yeah, so that's a huge one. The way I just wore the same clothes over and over again, there's a little bit of a classic saying that if you wear sweatshirts all summer, you're probably autistic. Check. Other things, like I can't wear a bird. Other things, like I can't wear necklaces. They make my neck feel like I'm gonna choke and die. Collars are hard for me sometimes. Tags are a huge deal. But like everyone hates tags, right? No one loves tags. So you grow up thinking like a tag's bothering you, and it's not like, I don't know, you don't go up to anyone and say like, dude, my tag, it bothers me so much more than your tag bothers you. Like, how do you know that? You don't know that until you start thinking you're autistic and realize how many autistic people have like a huge problem with tags, and then you're like, damn, I do have more of a problem with tags than most people. That's wild. But yeah, and again, you can just see I stim constantly. Yeah, and it's like really socially acceptable stims, except for my fingernail biting, but that one seems to, well, people at least don't judge me about it. It's my face, so. But a lot of it's like socially acceptable stimming. Like I'm what they would call stealthy. So yeah, lots of things that just like appear neurotypical. So again, lots of pen biting, lots of just like maybe moving my fingers like this, or just tap my foot, or scribbling, just stuff that you can chalk up to being a cool lad. What else was just so plainly obvious? Well, I think in its own way, my inability to really perceive what was going on gender-wise was very autistic, but that's a whole different egg to unpack in like 20 different videos. Oh, I just loved to be alone, especially as a small child. I just loved games and puzzles and trinkets, and I wouldn't say I'm like a lined them up autistic, but when I was little, I was definitely the kind of autistic who you could like hand some sort of like puzzly gyroscopy thing and I'd just sit there with it for hours. I'm still that person, honestly. No, I don't even know why I specified in youth, like, if you give me a weird puzzly thing, I love it. Anything that's like intricate or can spin, especially if it's like a cool material. If you give me something like that out of metal, that's wild. But I love to watch things. And it's nice to hear the kids playing, even if they're being wild. I have made way worse noises for way worse reasons. But what else? When I was a kid, I was like wildly blunt. It was wild. Like, kids would want to be my friend. Okay, hold on. Car God going by, and we got kids shouting. Like, kids would want to be my friend. They would come to me and they'd be like, hey, like, literally, like, they would say things like this, like, I think you're really cool, let's be friends. It's like 3rd grade. And I just would say, no, I don't like you. It was weird. A lot of people were caught off guard. One time, this kid, this was also 3rd grade, he just cheated in a game of kickball. That's what happened. And we had a substitute teacher that day, and he was one of those kids who acts tough but isn't. So he went over to her and he like tattled, and she didn't really give a shit. She was a substitute teacher. All that had happened was we had gotten a literal verbal argument over who won a point, and she was like, go figure it out. He came back to me and he said that he had like told her and that she had said he was right. And I just punched him. I didn't even know what she said. I figured that out later. I just punched him. It's the only time I've punched anyone. Yeah, pretty blunt for a child. And then as I got older, it wore off. Like, I got better at socializing to have a lot of friends, like popularity. I saw that popularity was part of socializing. That's where like my mask kind of started to develop, I guess. Masking can be a different autism video, but for the time being, maybe I'll link one in the description. I think one thing that really stands out is how honest I was. Like, don't get me wrong, sometimes I straight up lied, like hard lie, but I didn't mislead. Kind of brutally honest. Unless, of course, I was being terrible, which also happened, but not often. And, then other stuff, like, I was real good at math. And I was, like, I like patterns. Spelling is really hard for me. Left and right is really hard for me. These are just autistic things, man. 'Cause spelling doesn't make any goddamn sense. And I'm just, like, way better with cardinal directions because it has to do with where you are in the environment instead of left and right because that has to do with where your body is in the environment. And I'm much more used to thinking about the entire space than thinking about my singular body. I don't know if that's an autism thing, but I think it is. Just the idea that when you walk into a room, it's kind of like you're addressing the whole room, not addressing yourself. So the quickest thing that comes to me is that that's south, not that this is left. Yeah, sometimes I'm right, for at least my perspective of the video. That was right. This is right, this is left. But I know that's south and that's north way quicker. I don't know. I didn't make me. There were a lot of giveaways in the retrospection. But we just didn't have that then, you know? We didn't really have the internet like we do now. We don't have YouTube. We didn't have people like me and people like all of the people before me who helped me figure out I had autism. So instead of being diagnosed I probably could have been diagnosed at like 5, which genuinely would have changed my life drastically, and I don't know how. I wish I had been diagnosed early. No, I don't wish it, but I suspect it would have made my life easier. But I don't know for sure, and there's no way to know. Instead, I was diagnosed not that late for especially like women or like gender non-conforming people or just people with like really good masks. Honestly, a lot of us are just getting diagnosed now. Now is when we're realizing this broader spectrum of autism. So, you know, a lot of people are in their 30s, some people are in their 40s, some people are in their 50s, learning like, oh shit, like, I guess I'm autistic. And, yep. So it happened to me at, 20, 21, something like that, which still feels so old to be diagnosed with autism at 21. And it is, in the way that autism is presented to us. But in the reality of the situation, a lot of us get diagnosed late. And so I think that brings me to my last point. Sometimes I felt consumed by nature. Like I would just walk out and see everything. And I think if we had talked more about sensory experiences in youth, I would have known that the way that I look at the world, that my eyes see things differently. I know they're not seeing what other people are seeing. I know that I'm all way too consumed. It's so bright and it's so clear and it's so much. And I knew that as a child, but I didn't know that no one else knew. Or not no one, but just that it was quite intense. So those are the few that I have right now. Once again, well, yeah, I'll end it there. It's an amazing thing to learn you have autism. It's really amazing. Super, super scary at first. At least it was for me. And then everything fell into place and I was like, whoa. But those are the things about autism that I had no idea were autistic when I was growing up. And then looking back, they're real autistic. But yeah, so those are some of the traits I never saw. I love you guys.